Okay, so this is a very brief video that we always do for clients right at the beginning of our relationship, just as we've had their app published and accepted. And this gives you a brief overview of how to get into the back of the app and do some fairly basic things. So this is our panel. You'll get a URL to this panel in your welcome letter, and you'll get a password and a username and a password to get in. I usually put the same sort of format to them. I usually do the name of the client, in this case Red Bluff Youth Soccer, and then I use the same prefix, Red Bluff, and the numbers 1, 2, 3. That's a pretty safe way for us to do these, where it's relatively easy to remember. If this was a high security thing like a financial site, we might be a little bit more careful with our passwords, but for now that's enough. So this gets you into the main panel, and you can see that there are 4 main areas, and frankly really only 3 of them we encourage our clients to get involved with. The publish one, we ask you you can sort of go take a look at it, but don't get too involved in what happens here. This is only if you want to republish the app, which you do not have to do unless there's a major overhaul of the software. Usually changes you make in either 1, 2 or 3, functionality, content or appearance, will go live in the app the moment you make them. So let's go into the various places here very quickly. Functionality is where we choose the various functions of the app. You can see the ones that we have here as active. And each function has two components to it. One is a label, and one is a type of tab, if you will. This is a sort of a drag and drop software, and you can have various different types of tabs. And sometimes you may have, for example, here we've got an About Us tab here, which is an info tab, a 1-tier info tab, and Team Central, which is essentially the same side of type of tab, only it's much deeper, much more sophisticated, and it's a 3-tier info tab. So one type of tab can sort of serve various different purposes. There are events tabs which tie in with calendars. There are website tabs which tie in with URLs and websites. So you can use this for sponsor websites, or you could even use it for something like Facebook, which of course is a website, and social media tabs. So all kinds of different things. You'll get more familiar with those, but we've set up about a dozen, maybe 15 of these for every client as we go in. The content tab is where you input the data and the information that goes into each of these tabs. So we showed you that About Us tab, for example. If we go in here, now we can actually see this is the content, this is the information that we put into our About Us tab. And we can put some graphics in there and some other things as well. If it were a link tab, we talked about a link tab where we have some sponsors, for example, a website tab. So we can add a new website here, but meanwhile we have all the various URLs of certain sponsors. So you can add and delete those as you see fit. And then finally there is appearance. Most of our clients don't get too heavily involved in this unless they're maybe a tournament, a club that runs multiple tournaments, and they want to change the graphics for each tournament as it goes through the calendar. But for the time being, you can go in here and you can change some of the colors here. You can change some of these backgrounds. Go into the background images. And you can see that there are 4 different types of background, all sort of designed around the same basic theme, and each one of these can be assigned to any one of the tabs that you have here. And this entire dashboard here in the backgrounds images, by the way, is done 3 times. One for the mobile size. Each of these have different dimensions, and we'll share those with you. Then you have a different set of tabs for backgrounds for your iPhone 6 and iPhone 5. And then you have your tablet sizes for your iPads and your iPad minis. So those are all set up in the background images tab under the appearances. So as I say, publish, we don't encourage you to get too involved in this, but I'll briefly show you what happens in here. You can have various icons, your icon that appears in the App Store, screenshots. You can have as many as 5 different screenshots showing what the app does. We set all this up for you, and we don't encourage you to get too involved. And then there's a splash loading screen which is essentially our logo and your logo, sort of showing that we're in partnership on this project. So the main thing I want to show you though is your messages. That was the dashboard I showed you. Now let's go into messages, and this is where you send out your push notifications. Taking a while to load up, but here it is. Okay, so the push notification has three main formats. These are supposed to be across the top here. I'm not sure why they've misaligned here, but you first of all type your message, which is no more complicated than sending a tweet. You have up to 120 some characters, 128 I believe it is. Yep. So a little bit less than a tweet, but you can type this in here. And you can send it either to everybody who has an iPhone or everybody who has an Android. If it's a device-specific message, most of our clients don't bother with that. They send them automatically to both, and that's how it defaults. You can connect it on Facebook. You can connect it on Twitter. You can, and again, this is something that you don't necessarily have to do. Most of our clients don't do it, but you can send it to everybody who has your app or everybody who has it within a specific area, and then you can set that area. And this works pretty well for people who run tournaments in multiple locations. So they may have a tournament which has fields on the north side of town and also fields on the south side of town, and maybe they're a few miles apart, and there are some sponsors, local restaurants around the field in the northern part of town that really are interested in getting messages to folks as they arrive at the fields, but they're not terribly interested in reaching folks on the other fields. So they may have a push notification, set up a geographic area. You can make it as large or as small as you like. You can make it very specific to an address. And all of these things can be done so that they're set up at a certain time, and then they can as someone walks into that geographic area, the push notification is triggered by their GPS location. So just one of many things you can do with this. Content, you can just put a message, or you could put a link to a website or a link to another tab within the same app. So there's lots of different ways that you can get the message in, but let's just go back to the most basic thing. We've typed our message in here and we want to publish it. And then we can publish it for as long as we like. We can make it active until a few days from now. Let's say it's active until Monday. And then we can send it either on a specific day, or we can send it right now. So I'm going to send it right now. And we should get a success message in a moment. And there it is. It's gone. So that's how you send your push notifications. What else have we got up here? We've got some analytics. This is a brand new app, so there's not very many downloads, but you can look in here and start to get some information about how many people have downloaded the app and which particular pages and tabs they're looking at in both the iPhone format and the Android format. Here we are, starting to see where these are, most of course in the United States, how many times each tab has been visited. So the image gallery here has been visited the most. Along with Team Central, which is not surprising. That's one of the most popular tabs we have in the club apps that this is part of. And there's your analytics. There is a help desk here, and there's some account information. QR codes, you can go in here and you can create a QR code. This is also a very good thing for someone who's got a meeting planned. Either it might be a registration night or a mandatory coaches meeting or something like that. And what you can do is you can get folks who show up, you can print these out and put them all around the room and let folks know that you've got the app and you want them to download it. And then if they've got an Android, they can zap this one with their QR reader, or they can zap this if they've got an iPhone. And it automatically takes them to the appropriate page in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, and they can download the app directly right from this sheet. So that's a neat feature. And that's basically it. It just gives you a very brief overview. The more familiar you become with this, the more fun you'll have with it. It's that simple. You can come up with some really creative ideas for how you can interact with sponsors. You can add all kinds of information every time there's a change of board or a new schedule update. All of this information can be put in here very easily in one of these three tabs or through the push notifications up here. So that's it. Any questions, of course, let me know. But that is basically how you go into the back end of the app and start to get familiar with how to update it. Thanks very much.